Yeah, it's very challenging. So it allows us just to think a lot about the way we speak and the things that we do. So what I'd like to look at is a couple more ideas just around speech and what the way the Torah presents our challenges of speech. I think is the most important part of of this parsha. Um, so so the the Balei Musar in the parashas focus on the fact that it's all about it's all about the manner in which one engages with things. There's a wonderful story of Rav Simcha Zissel of Kelm that he's sitting together with one of his talmidim, Rav Leizer, who was also one of the great talmidim of Rav Simcha Zissel, and we're talking about a period of time where these people were so great, and it's out of them that came all the great rabbis that taught our rabbis who taught us. So we're talking about the most wonderful people. But one of the classic things about, especially we know about South African Jewry, has always been the this Litvischer way of being pleasant, of trying to engage with everybody around. So they tell the story about Rav Simcha Zissel that he goes with his Talmud and they're sitting with a simple farmer, and they're sitting with the farmer and they're talking about the chickens and the livestock and all the stuff that's going on there. And while they're talking, Reb Leizer gets a bit bored and he starts reading one of the svarim that he had with him. Immediately, the farmer's wife has to go somewhere, and the farmer goes out. He needs to go, and Rav Simcha Zissel turns around to Reb Leizer and he said to him, "You're a gazlan, you're a thief." So he says to him, "What do you mean? You can't call me a thief." So he says to him, "You are a thief. You know why you're a thief?" He says, "Because the woman and her husband, they welcomed us into their home because she thinks that we're such great people. And how can we repay them for their hospitality? So the only thing that they want is just for us to be kind and friendly to them and to show them that we're actually interested in their lives. And now you come and you sit and you learn." So so Rav Franfeld says, from here you can see that Rav Simcha Zissel understood that in every situation there is a responsibility in the things that we talk about. Rav Volby mentions another story about this a woman who came to him and she was totally brokenhearted, and he says to her, "What's wrong?" And she says to him, because she just bought a new home and she was so proud of her home, and her best friend came to see her home, and she said, "It's beautiful, it's absolutely stunning." He says, "But and the rooms are quite small though." Can you imagine that? Can you imagine? You're so proud of your new home and someone comes and says the rooms are small. So the Gemara in Ksuvah says that when someone shows you something new that they've purchased, even if it's rubbish, even if it's junk, the Gemara says you're supposed to praise it. Why? Because you're supposed to make people feel good. And what we see is that the plague of Tzarat, where we say it comes, this whole thing of Tzarat comes from Lashon Hora. Lashon Hora doesn't only mean speaking ill about other people. Lashon Hora means, the way the Balei Musar understood it, was that a person needs to speak appropriately at the appropriate time. It's not just the speech of against people, but it's Lashon Hara, that it's the speech that is bad at a certain specific time. The part of it is understanding what we are and where we are. So the Torah explains that the concept of the tahara, of the purity and the impurity of the Metzorah is of the person who speaks ill and then becomes thing is just really indicative of the person, and we see that actually in the Haggadah that is pointed out. So the Tiferet Shimshon, is Rav Pinkas, he's really got a deep insight. He says that sometimes you have to understand that it's not only the things we say, how we say things, where we say, and where do we learn things. That on the lesions, one of the colors of the lesions is lavan. Lavan, he explains, is a neutral color. We know that lavan is just the most neutral color. He says, but we understand that just because something is neutral doesn't mean that it's indicative of neutral. Neutral is not always the right thing to be. And he says, where do we learn that from? We learn that from the great person that we mentioned in the Haggadah. Because in the Haggadah, we speak about Lavan Ha'arami. And he says the name of a person also indicates the type of person that they are. So Rabbi Meir actually said, Rabbi Meir Dayek Bishma. Rabbi Meir was always medayek, very careful about people's names, because he understood that in their names, there were things that we could learn. Lavan Ha'arami, he says. Lavan Ha'arami, for example, Letzeva Lavan Ein Shum Atzmiut. The name, the color Lavan has got no identity on its own. Hu chelek lagamre beli shum iyon. It's just a color. It is. It includes all other colors. We know that when you put white through a prism, then all the other colors come out. So it says that's the same as kach Lavan Arami. Lavan hayara mai gamur betachlit lelo shum kivan v'nekudet emet klal. Lavan was such a composite of everything. He had absolutely no emet in himself whatsoever at all. And his name, therefore, is indicative of the person that he is. And that's why we have to be so careful about this baheret, these afflictions that are white, because the white is indicative of the fact that we've taken all different ideas and different spaces, and we haven't taken a stance on what other people are and rather we've decided that we are going to determine their colors based on our understanding of them, and that's really a big problem in terms of the space of Lashon Hara. We understand that the Rabbi Munk says that if the white area covers as much as 99% of the body, then the person is considered to be tameh. But as soon as the affliction reaches its ultimate climax and covers the entire body, it becomes pure. And he says, why is that? He says, because it's very simple, that when a person is involved in something that most of their let's say the ordeal is that they're going through is a situation where Hashem is giving them so much, but it's not the ultimate end of it. So at that point in time, a person is considered needs to really reflect carefully, and that's the whole point of the reflection of the Metzorah, that he or she has to reflect deeply on what they're doing. But at a certain point, it gets to a point where it's no longer going to be a problem any longer. And in our lives, that's what Rabbi Munki is wanting to say, is that the whiteness of the affliction covers us, and when it covers us not completely, we need to know that it's not yet the end. But there is a point, as he says, God's salvation is closest to man when his ordeal reaches its greatest intensity, and at that point it's the turning point in his destiny. And I think that's part of all these different things that we've learned about, and that's why Tazria Metzorah is so difficult, because it's stuff that it doesn't happen to us any longer. We have to find lessons in it to find what it takes. And so we understand that on the one hand, the whiteness of it is us not making decisions about what choices we are going to make in our lives. We become like Lavan, the man Lavan, who wanted, as we understand from the Haggadah, he wanted to like Koretz HaKol. But Lavan, that Malay on it is a Malay, as Rav Munk says, that covers only up to 90%. When it covers 100% of us, it means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying this is the time where you can actually have a clean slate to make real new decisions about the person that you're going to be. And we do understand that this person who is the Metzorah is taken out of the community, completely out of the community. Why is he or she taken out of the community? Because when a person is unable to make proper choices about the way that they behave with others, the way they speak about others, the way they speak about things with others, then such a person doesn't belong in the community, because all they do is damage the integrity of the community. And so as we go forward into this Shabbos, perhaps the most important thing that we can think about is the role that we play in community through the speech, well, the words that we use. Because if we are able to use our words carefully to build our communities, to build, and communities are our families, our friends, and our community at large. If we can build our communities through our speech in that way, then we don't need to be extracted out of them. And sometimes we get extracted out of community, not just because of tzaraat, but we get extracted out of the community by virtue of the fact that people don't want to engage with us because the words that we use are sometimes hurtful, even if we don't mean them to be hurtful. We say we're trying to give constructive criticism as an example, but as that story that we mentioned earlier from Rav Volby, where the woman comes and she says she's brokenhearted because the woman wasn't saying anything wrong. She was just saying the rooms are small. But sometimes when you say the rooms are small in the wrong context, so that hurts. And that hurting is the thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, if you're going to hurt others by your words, you need to be extracted from society. Let us work and try to increase our care in our words. And in our care in our words, we make sure that our society builds itself in a proper and appropriate way. If we're going to stop there, hope everybody has a beautiful Shabbos. Please God, next week as we go into stuff which is a little bit easier to engage with in a proper way, so we can continue learning much more on the page itself.